Hi guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today we're going to be doing a review slash recap of the 10-year-old film Warm Bodies starring Nicholas Hoult. Adapted from the novel by Isaac Marin, it's described as a romantic comedy horror. It's basically Romeo and Juliet but with zombies. The novel was released in October of 2010, and the film followed shortly after February 1st of 2013. The first trailer for this movie dropped in November of 2012, and I remember being so excited for this movie. I was posting about it on Facebook with my friends. I somehow managed to read the entire book in 2 days, which it's not crazy long. It's like 200 some odd pages, but considering I was 14 at the time and I never read out of my own volition, it was extremely impressive. I looked like this. Isn't that nice? In the film, a plague has left the population of Earth divided between humans and zombies. We follow our main character R, played by Nicholas Hoult, and yes, it's the same Nicholas Hoult from the last film I reviewed, The Menu. R comes into contact with a human named Julie and instantly falls in love with her. They form a unique bond, which in turn slowly helps R turn back into a human. But of course, there are some bumps along the way for these two characters to have the happy ending that they want. The film explores themes of connection, humanity, love, and societal expectations. We open the movie by being introduced to R and his internal monologue. He talks about how pale he is, how he should stand up straighter, and how he wishes he could connect with people. But he can't, because he's dead, just like everybody else that's around him. He lives in the airport amongst the other corpses. And corpses is basically the name that is given to the zombies of this universe. He can't remember his name, his parents, or anything from his previous life. The only thing he remembers is that his name started with R. Looking around at the other corpses, he can only imagine what they were in a past life. A janitor, a rich kid, a personal trainer, but now they're a corpse. His days consist of shuffling around and bumping into other corpses, being unable to apologize. We get a flashback of the time before the plague had happened. We see the general population with their noses deep into their phones, basically the very opposite of communicating and enjoying each other's company. There are more feral corpses that they call bonies. R explains that they don't really bother other corpses much, but they will devour anything with a heartbeat. Even though R also eats humans, he feels conflicted about it, unlike the bonies, who are completely devoid of all humanity. R doesn't want to be this way. He's lonely, and he's lost. Like, he's actually lost. He's never been in this part of the airport before. As he's walking around, he passes by two children corpses and wonders if they're also thinking the way he is. Do they want this life? Do they enjoy how they're living? Do they think like him? R makes his way back to where he lives. Lives. As much as he possibly can. Live. He's made a home on one of the airplanes where he has a huge collection of random items, including books, bobbleheads, instruments, snow globes, and he even has a record player. And he collects records. And he likes to listen to music still. He also has a best friend named M. They occasionally grunt and stare at each other. Sometimes they even have an almost conversation. They can, however, say a few words, like hungry and city. The city is where the humans of the area have made a settlement. It is barricaded by giant walls and surrounding buildings. This is when we are introduced to Julie and the people in her group. As the group is about to go on a mission to get supplies, they are shown an informational video about the corpses. In this informational video, we learn that it has been approximately 8 years since the plague destroyed the world. At this point, the search for the cure has gone stagnant. This is just the way the world is now, and people have come to accept it. As Julie and her group are watching the video, General Grigio, the leader of the group, explains that corpses are uncaring, incapable of remorse. They don't think, nor do they bleed. General Grigio also happens to be Julie's dad. As the group is watching the video, Julie attempts to grab the hand of the boy that's standing next to her. He recoils, and basically gestures her to continue watching the video. As they start their journey, we can see that the city has become a barren wasteland. Broken down cars and overgrown plants have taken over. Julie's group ends up finding their way to a pharmacy, but R's group also can smell them, and tracks them down, and decides to ambush them. As the two groups are fighting each other, R sees Julie and is mesmerized, falls in love at first sight. Missing You by John Waite plays. But R is quickly taken out of his daze by getting shot by Perry, the boy who Julie attempted to hold hands with earlier. R swiftly retaliates by pulling Perry off the table. Before biting into his arm, R notices that Perry has a nice watch. R wishes that he didn't have to hurt people, but this is how it is. Now, two things can happen when a corpse attacks a human. They can, 1, only eat some of the person, leaving the brain intact, and they will rise up and become a corpse themselves. Or 2, the corpse will eat them and consume their brain, which in return gives the corpse the person's memories, thoughts, and feelings. R claims that the brain is the best part. He begins to eat Perry's brain and experience some of these memories. In these memories, we can see that he and Julie actually had a relationship at some point. R stuffs the leftover brain into his hoodie pocket, as a little snack for later. R proceeds to approach Julie, and in response, Julie throws a knife right through R's torso. This basically does nothing, because of course corpses do not bleed, nor do they feel pain. R continues to approach Julie, but does not attack her. Instead, he wipes his zombie goop on her to cover her scent from the other corpses. For some reason, he decides to bring her back to the airport and show her the airplane that he lives on. R also brought back a snow globe from the pharmacy that contains two people holding hands. Julie is obviously freaked out, but R tries to explain that he doesn't want to eat her. He wants to keep her safe. But to no avail, Julie is still very much freaked out, so R decides to leave her alone to let her calm down a little bit. R goes to leave and sit in the car in one of the carports and eat more of Perry's brain to learn more about Julie. In another flashback, we learn that Julie's mom is dead, and that Julie and her dad have a strained relationship due to the plague. We also see Julie and Perry go on a mission to find Perry's dad, but unfortunately have found him to have turned into a corpse. R returns to the airplane and tries his best to not be creepy, but ultimately fails. She asks why did he save her. R doesn't really have an answer, but in response he pulls out a record and plays Patience by Guns N' Roses. All R wants to do is keep Julie safe. Julie is extremely confused by this, asking R, "What are you?" He simply leans back in his seat, and we see that his heart starts to beat for the first time in years. The next morning, Julie wakes up with R staring very intensely at her. She demands that she leaves, but R says that it isn't safe. She tells R that she's hungry. She asks if he can go get her some food. R leaves to go get her food, and she takes this time to attempt to escape. However, she doesn't get very far because her scent is extremely strong. She's almost caught, but R saves her once again. Smearing more of his zombie goop on her, he instructs her to, quote-unquote, be dead. They find some food in the airport and make their way back to the airplane. R makes a solid attempt at trying to connect with Julie by offering her a beer. Julie actually plays along and refers to R as Mr. Zombie. R attempts to actually tell her his name, but ultimately still doesn't remember, so all that comes out is, R's internal monologue is upset that this date isn't going well. He wants to die all over again. Julie insists that she has to leave, but R convinces her that they have to wait a few days, or the other corpses will notice. Julie asks what there is to do while they wait. Julie and R take the convertible from earlier out for a spin. They drive it along the airplane runways. Now, since R is a zombie, he doesn't have the best dexterity. R makes a decent effort at driving. He only brake checks a few times. However, he does slightly crash the car while parking. As Julie and R are hanging out on the airplane, Julie starts to go through his record collection. Julie asks why he uses records and not an iPod. R states that they have better sound. Whenever Julie asks R a question, R tends to shrug in response. He's obviously not the most communicative person. She asks that he stop shrugging so much, and in response, he shrugs. We get a sweet montage of Julie and R spending time together, with Hungry Heart by Bruce Springsteen playing. They dress up, they play games, and they dance. However, R's best friend starts to grow suspicious from hearing the loud music coming from the airplane. Julie asks R about Perry, and if he'll come back as one of you. R says no. At this point, Julie is still unaware that R is the one who killed Perry. Julie admits that even though she is sad that Perry is gone, she had been preparing for this for a long time. R puts on Shelter from the Storm by Bob Dylan and rests his hand over Julie's heart. Julie is still perplexed by R and how he acts. He isn't normal. Well, he isn't normal for a zombie. Since corpses can't dream, R decides to eat more of Perry's brain instead to experience memories and emotions. We get another flashback of Perry joining the settlement and then to right before he died in the pharmacy. R sees himself attacking Perry and is absolutely disgusted with himself. He spits out the remaining brains. While he was doing this, Julie has attempted to escape once again. She is cornered by corpses, including M. M is upset that R is defending her. As they are arguing, R and Julie begin being chased by bonies. As they're escaping, M decides to rescue them by running over the bonies with a cart. R convinces M to help. M drives them to the convertible in the carport where a large group of corpses is present. Julie and R hold hands in front of them, and they actually become sedated. The corpses let them enter the convertible, and they drive away. As they're driving, it begins to rain, and Julie becomes cold, so they make a stop in an abandoned neighborhood. They enter a house, and Julie lights a lantern. R decides to pocket a few random knickknacks to bring home. Julie finds a cute little Polaroid camera and decides to take a bunch of pictures. She quotes Perry, saying, "Everything you see, you may be seeing for the last time." As R is flipping through a magazine, Julie asks if he would like to sleep on the floor in the bedroom where she's going to be sleeping. As Julie and R are settling down for the night, a search group from the settlement, which includes Julie's dad, is driving through the neighborhood. Julie states that her dad would have just shot R and not thought twice about it. As Julie is trying to fall asleep, her clothes are still wet from the rain, so she decides to take them off. R's internal monologue simply says, "Holy shit." Julie asks him not to look, and he replies, "Okay," while still staring directly at her. Julie asks R if he has to eat people, which, of course he does, but she asks why he didn't eat her. She sees that R is trying to be better, and that he's a good person. This makes R feel guilty, and confess that it was actually him who killed Perry. When R killed Perry, he took his watch that he had found nice in the beginning. Julie says that she kind of knew that it was him, but she had hoped that it wasn't true. R pleads to Julie that he is sorry, but she ignores him. Later that night, R actually falls asleep and has a dream. In the dream, he sees Julie, Perry, and Nora, Julie's best friend, in an orchard. Julie asks what job they would want to have if the world was normal again. Nora says she wants to be a nurse, to find a cure. In this dream, R is also present, and the group interacts with him, asking him why he's here. In this dream, R can speak in full coherent sentences. Perry dogs on him, saying, "Dreaming is for humans." Julie asks R what he wants to be. She says that he can be anything he wants. R says that he wants you and me, as in him and Julie. And Perry says, "It won't happen. You know why? Because you ate her ex." R awakes to find that Julie has left without him. He's extremely sad and begins to wonder. He says that it's easier not to feel. Back at the airport, M sees a collage of pictures, one being of two people holding hands. He thinks back to R and Julie holding hands, which reignites a memory from his past life. It is of him and a woman, either a girlfriend or a wife, and they are holding hands while walking in a park. Another corpse approaches M, and M asks him if he feels it. The corpse agrees. Other corpses join around, and we all see their hearts start to beat. But because of this, they have caught the attention of some bonies. Julie makes her way back to the settlement and meets her dad. He asks her what happened, and she actually lies about what happened and where she's been. As R is making his way back to the airport, he talks about how he's going to stop thinking so much and forget about Julie. It begins to rain. He feels cold. This is very odd, considering corpses do not feel pain, nor do they get colds. As he is walking, he runs into M and a group of other corpses. M tells R that bonies chased them out, and they came to find him. M asks where Julie is, and R says that she went home. M simply replies, "Bitches, man." R shrugs. Apparently the bonies are on the hunt for both him and Julie. M also explains to R that he saw memories of his mom, summertime, cream of wheat for some reason, and a girl. R asks the corpses to help save Julie. They moan and groan, and M translates, saying, "They said, fuck yeah." And then one of my absolutely all-time favorite songs plays, "Rock You Like a Hurricane" by the Scorpions. From Perry's memories, R is able to remember a secret entrance to the settlement. He attempts to blend in as best as possible while he makes his way to her house. As he is walking, he catches a glimpse of his reflection. He looks much more lively and human than he did at the beginning of the film. Inside of Julie's house, she confesses to Nora where she was and that she actually misses R. Nora begins to make fun of Julie, saying R is her zombie boyfriend. As they are about to go to sleep, Julie steps out onto the patio and R gets her attention. As they are arguing, Nora enters the patio and sees R and is quite surprised. Julie brings R into the house and they hug. Julie says that he feels warmer than he normally was before. Nora proceeds to ask R a bunch of questions. How'd you die? How old are you? Why don't you smell rotten? Julie interjects asking why R came here. R says that he wants to show the world that he's changing, that corpses can change, but also that bonies are chasing them and they don't have a lot of time. And of course, since we know that they don't have a lot of time, what do Julie and Nora do? They give R a makeover. Nora puts on the song Pretty Woman because it is funny. It immediately ends up getting changed to Midnight City by M83, as we get a montage of R getting all dolled up. He takes a shower and Julie and Nora fix his hair and put makeup on him to give him a more human look. When they're done, Nora states that he looks hot. Julie also looks extremely impressed. As R, Julie, and Nora make their way through the city, they're almost caught by a gate guard. R's internal monologue says, "Say something human" in a panic. He asks the gate guard, "How are you?" As Julie attempts to get her dad's attention, he explains that there's an emergency of bonies and corpses coming towards the settlement. Julie tells her dad that the corpses are changing and curing themselves. He obviously does not believe her and starts to grow angry. R attempts to interject, and as Julie is trying to explain that corpses are changing, he pulls a gun on R. Nora, in response, pulls a gun on Julie's dad. Julie and R take this time to make an escape and make their way to the stadium where M and the other corpses are waiting. The number of them has grown. They all want to change. Just as M is stating that the corpses want to fight and change, the bonies start to close in on the roof. M and the other corpses attempt to hold them off as long as possible, while Julie and R escape again. We see a group of soldiers getting attacked by bonies, but a corpse jumps in and saves them. He holds out his hand for the soldier to join him in solitude. More soldiers come into contact with corpses and bonies, asking, "Who do we shoot?" M throws a bony towards them, saying, "This asshole." Over the walkie-talkies, General Grigio hears that corpses are fighting bonies. This confuses him. R and Julie get cornered by more bonies, and they have to jump from atop of the stadium. R grabs a hold of Julie as they fall into a fountain down below. R breaks the fall for Julie, hitting the bottom of the fountain, momentarily knocking him out. As Julie brings him back to the surface, he becomes conscious again. They smile at each other for a moment, and then kiss. In what seems to be the final piece of R becoming fully human again, his eyes change back to normal, and then immediately is shot by Julie's dad. He instructs Julie to move away from him, but Julie pleads with him that R is different. He's changing. And he's bleeding. Corpses don't bleed. General Grigio is in shock and lowers his weapon and calls over the walkie that the situation has changed. The soldiers help Julie and R, and General Grigio asks if R is still bleeding. When R replies yes, General Grigio says, "Good." R says that it hurts a lot to be shot, but he also says that it felt good to feel pain and love. The soldiers and corpses wiped out all of the bonies, and the ones they didn't kill ended up dying out anyways. The corpses learned to live again with the humans and connect with them. This was the cure. Connection. We see M struggling to open an umbrella when a lady comes to help him. He continues to talk to her and introduces himself. Marcus. We learn that his name is Marcus. As Julie and R sit on a wall, Julie asks R if he remembers his name, and he says no. But he doesn't want to remember, because he doesn't want that life. He wants this one. Just R. They watch as the wall that was built to keep the settlement safe is torn down, and the credits roll. One of the main themes of this film is connection and humanity. R struggles with his humanity as a zombie, and in return is how he's viewed by humans. But through the connection he has with Julie, he experiences emotions and memories. Their connection is what helps bridge the gap between corpses and humans. Love is a force that can transcend societal boundaries. I remember when this film came out, a lot of people were saying it was basically going to be Twilight 2.0 because, the trope of human girl falls in love with a non-human boy, their love is forbidden. And while I understand that that is the main premise of the movie, it's more than that. I love this film because it gives a good twist on the classic Romeo and Juliet story, almost literally. Their names are R and Julie. They aren't meant to be together, as well as some other overlapping themes and scenes. For me, this film is a guilty pleasure because it's not overly complex and deep. It can be a bit corny at times, but the acting is pretty top-notch. Nicholas Hoult does a fantastic job of pretending to be basically an illiterate zombie who's incapable of expressing emotions. But throughout the film, he becomes more and more expressive and more human-like. This film is by no means perfect. However, I think it's cutesy and quirky for the time that it came out. I was a 14-year-old girl who at the time was absolutely obsessed with One Direction, and I actually didn't like Twilight very much. The only franchise I really cared for at the time was actually Harry Potter. It's nice to see that even 10 years later, I can still thoroughly enjoy this film. If you enjoyed watching this video, be sure to leave a like, comment, and even subscribe. If you have any suggestions for what you want me to watch or review, leave a comment down below. If you have anything you want to tell me, leave a comment down below. If you want to tell me that my voice is annoying, leave a comment. I already know, but you can just leave a comment just for fun. And that's it. See you guys later.